Last year in November, we launched the dry season farming. The phase one was to plant wheat, and we have done that. We have planted 117,000 hectares, Jigawa being the number one with 40,000, but I'm glad to announce that beyond the 40,000, they have done 55,000 hectares of wheat.
Order, please. Please. They could not ourselves in silence, please.
And that is the first phase, and we're about to harvest that wheat shortly, this month to the end of the month. In a sense, what we have done with the dry season farming is to incentivize our farmers to have all year-round production. We have been having seasonal production, especially during the wet season. As we all know, sometimes we see farmers only farming activities in 4 months, and they'll stay idle for 8 months. But today, we have been working together with the Federal Ministry of Water Resources to take opportunity of the abundant irrigation facilities and the irrigable lands to do all year-round farming, and government is supporting that under 2 programs. Number 1 program is the National Agricultural Growth Scheme, Agro Pocket, which is partly funded by the African Development Bank, the Islamic Development Bank, and also the intervention by the federal government, and of course by the benevolence of the National Assembly for giving us the budget allocation to carry out that strategy. The second phase is that of the rice, maize, and cassava. However, that is not the only commodities that we are going to deal with under the National Agricultural Growth Scheme. We also have sorghum, soya in the wet season. Now, what we have charted for the rice in the second phase is the cultivation of 150,000 of hectares under the NAGS Agro Pocket, and then also in the intervention, the support of the deficiency, because there's a deficiency in the NAGS. Let me give you an example of the deficiency I'm talking about. In the wheat program, the NAGS calls for 50% subsidy. When we had the calculation at that time, for 1 hectare, the EOP for that, the inputs is 360,000 naira, and the 50% is 180,000 naira, which means that the farmer was expected to come up with 180,000 naira upfront and to be given full inputs of 360,000 naira worth of both fertilizer and pesticides and herbicides, and the seeds are free. Whether it is wheat, rice, or maize, or cassava, or sorghum, or soya, all the seeds that were given are free seeds. So that was a big challenge to farmers. You could imagine what it means for a small rural farmer to come up with 180,000 before planting, and then for him to get that value of inputs. So we decided in the second phase to scale it down so that it will be affordable to the farmer. We approached Mr. President, and he graciously approved that we do whatever is possible for the farmer to have access to capital, to have access to inputs. So what we did was, in the 150,000 hectares of NAGS, it still stands at 50%, and then we reduced the size of the farm. In the wheat, we did 1 farmer, 1 hectare. 1 hectare, for ease of reference, is equivalent to about a little bigger than a football field. So we felt and believed that that size is too much for the small rural smallholder farmer. So we decided to scale it down and apply double the number of farmers and reduce the size. So we reduced it to half a hectare and double the size of farmers. So for 150,000 for the NAGS, we're going to deal with 300,000 farmers. So with rice, the amount of inputs for rice is less than that of wheat. In the wheat, you need about 10 bags of fertilizer. In rice, you need 6 bags of fertilizer per hectare. So for half a hectare, we decided to use, we are going to give 3 bags of of fertilizer and all the herbicides and pesticides, and then seeds, like I said, are free. So when we did the EOP, we found out that even the price was about 304 for half a hectare for rice, and for what at the end of the day the farmer would pay was about 75,000. But we decided to offtake that so that we give additional 1 bag of fertilizer so that the farmer will pay only 16,000. And the only reason why we did that was that so that the farmer will have a stake in what he's doing. In addition to that, after he's been funded and supported with all the materials, we are going to, at the end of the day, offtake 2 bags of 75 kilograms each of paddy from the farmer. That 2 bags will go directly to the food reserve. So that, in a sense, is something that we are going to incentivize the farmer in the rice second phase, and we intend to, Mr. Speaker and distinguished members, that we are going to roll out that program starting from next week from Niger, and then we move into the other areas. So then the issue of, well, let me just say that for the wheat, we did in 15 participating. There's only 15 states that can do wheat. So we did in the 15 states. But for the rice, it's all across 36 states and FCT. And of course, there are some that are more, like for instance, in rice, Kebbi is #1. In wheat, Jigawa is #1. In rice, Kebbi and Niger are #1 states for rice. And the same thing will also apply for the additional 100,000. Mind you, for the rice, we're doing 250,000 for 150,000 for NACS and 100,000 for special intervention from the federal government. So we're looking at a total of 250,000 hectares of rice for the dry season, which will mean impacting on 500,000 farmers, and which will have an estimated yield of 1 million tons. For the dry season, let me put it in this perspective. The whole demand in Nigeria is about 9 million tons of rice a year. We produce about 8.4 million tons. In the dry season, we produce about 3 million. With direct intervention, anywhere between 2.5 to 3 million. With the direct intervention of President...
Order, please. Order, please, honorable colleagues.
Of government is would give us an estimate of about 1 million tons of rice within the next 3 months. So what we are seeing is that even if you take at 2.5 beyond the government intervention, it is going to be about 3 million or 2.5 million tons of rice, which will be about 30% of our need, and that will be able to take us through up until the rain season. At the end of the rain season, when we harvest another 6 million tons of rice. Maize is not as much as rice in the dry season, but we intend to cultivate about 55,000 hectares, which will impact 110,000 farmers and a yield of 220,000 metric tons. Cassava also is 35,000 hectares with 70,000 farmers and a yield of 525,000 tons.